So a little background information. I was 16 and I was in my sophomore year of high school, but we're gonna rewind a few years back to whenever I was like 12, maybe 13, maybe 12. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, well, my mom and dad were pretty much kids whenever they had me. My dad was like 15 and my mom was 18. Listen, I know what you guys are thinking. I know it sounds effed up, but my dad lied to my mom about his age so that way she would do the nasty with him. Are we surprised? No, we're not, because boys are evil, literally. Anyways, so, yeah, my mom pretty much, she found out that she was pregnant with me and she wanted to abort me, but my dad begged her not to. For what reason? I really don't know why. I think she should have. Just kidding, not really. And I know this sounds like a little bit fucked up, but in all seriousness, I really don't think my dad actually wanted me. I think that he just wanted a way to stay connected to my mom. Yeah, to be honest, I really don't think he gave two fucks about me, which was selfish of him, of course, but it was also selfish in the way that my mom was literally just about to start her life. You know, she got into a really good college that she worked really hard to get into, and besides, they were literally only supposed to be a hookup. So I could see why she like just didn't want me. But like I said, he begged her not to get an abortion, so she said fine. But after I popped this thing out, I'm not staying here. I gotta go. And my dad said that he was fine with that. He probably thought that he could take those 9 months to convince her to stay, but no. She had me, dipped, didn't give a fuck about either of us. She was gone. Well, throughout the next 12 years, he was constantly juggling, trying to be a kid with no responsibilities, while also trying to be a parent at the same time. Now, does that make any fucking sense? No, it doesn't, because you cannot put no responsibilities and parents into the same sentence. It just doesn't fucking work. The only time I remember my dad being an actual decent responsible father was when he started dating this one girl, Penelope. By the way, I have no idea if this is my shade, so bear with me, and if you comment that the shade doesn't match, I know. And I literally loved Penelope. She was like one of the most amazing human beings, and even though her and my dad had just met, she treated me like I was one of her own. She didn't have any other children, but she treated me like I was her kid, if you guys didn't get what I meant. And I would say that besides my mom, this is probably one of the only other women that my dad ever loved. Okay, the hair clips just like weren't working. Anyways, and yeah, that was the only other woman that he had ever loved and he would do anything for. But not too long into the relationship, she went into a little bit of a depression after her sister died, and she literally just like cut everybody off, even my dad and I, without warning. Like the day after her mom passed away, she was over at our house. She was super upset, obviously, and then we never saw or heard from her again. I mean, honestly though, we kind of knew, well, we didn't know, but we should have known that this was like a last goodbye type of thing because of how emotional it was. Like, you know how when you're saying goodbye to somebody for the last time and you know that you're never going to see them again, or you might never see them again, and like you can just feel the tension in the air? That's the type of goodbye that it was. But yeah, anyways, enough about Penelope. After this happened, my dad became super cold and irresponsible, I would say. You know how like it's supposed to be that girls are the relationship type? Well, I feel like that was my dad. Like my dad was a relationship type of guy. Anyways, so because of this, I didn't grow up with much. My dad and I were living with a few of his friends. We could have moved in with my grandma, but she would have forced him to be more of an adult, you know, like get a job, actually take care of me, those sorts of things. Anyways, yeah, so we didn't live with her. We lived with some of his friends, and I'm not gonna lie, we low-key lived in a trap house, literally. Like there were always intoxicated people coming in and out of the house. There were needles and spoons everywhere. If you know, you know. There were alcohol and smoke stains on the wall. It was fucking disgusting. You know, I'm not even gonna lie, like that low-key reminds me of the one time that I went to visit my stepdad, and I went to visit my mom while I was there. She didn't know that I was visiting my stepdad. It was like a whole big thing. But while I was there, yeah, I went to go visit my mom, and the house that she was staying with, now my mom has struggled with addiction, but the house that she was staying at, literally the way to lock the door was you had to put a knife through this lock. Yeah, it was not pretty, and there were like needles around and shit like that as well. So yeah, I feel like I can picture this in my head. Anyways, back to the story. It always smelled like cigs and weed and beer. Like the amount of times that CPS was called to my house because of me smelling like smoke, or because I wore the same clothes to school 3 days in a row, was ridiculous. But there was nothing that they could really do since they had my grandma's address. Every time they went to my grandma's house, there was nothing that really seemed like I was being neglected. I think that's the right word. I don't know. Okay, so now I am 12 years old, and up until now, I have been bullied a lot in school. Like I've said before, many of times, children are ruthless as fuck. And to be honest, it was mainly because of the things that I talked about earlier, you know, being poor, wearing the same clothes every day, and smelling like shit. That's pretty much why. Well, some of the children who were bullying me just so happened to be my step-siblings. Yep. So instead of being able to leave my bullies at school, these little trolls had to come home with me. But yeah, let me explain how that happened. So there were a group of 5 kids who would constantly pick on me. And usually I would just let it go. You know, I had tried telling a teacher, but that just like backfired in my face because clearly all of them said that I was lying and that I had been calling the one girl mean names, and of course majority rules. So yeah, I got in trouble. Not only that, but I low-key felt like the teachers favorited the rich kids. Like a lot of the teachers that I had growing up were just like dickheads to me for no reason. But yeah, besides the point, I really just tried to focus on getting my schoolwork done so I could go home and live my life in peace. Kind of, not really, but kind of. I feel like I literally look like a fucking ghost right now. This is awful. Okay, so now is where we finally get to the day that I feel like my life was low-key like ruined for a little bit. So the one day my bullies, Michelle and Savannah, were hanging out in the bathrooms during lunch, which was super unusual because usually they would be sitting with their friends, and usually I would be in the bathrooms because, well, especially during lunch, because I didn't have any money to get anything for lunch. And yes, I 100% could have got free lunches, but my dad always forgot to fill out the forms. So that ship just like literally sailed. Thanks, Dad. Anyway, so I walk into the bathroom and they're being super obnoxious, screaming, throwing water everywhere, of course, which of course I just happened to slip on while I was walking over to one of the stalls. And of course, Michelle and Savannah start laughing. And you know whenever you're just like super frustrated after something embarrassing happens to you? Yeah, this was one of those moments. So you know, my 12-year-old self is like, what the fuck are you laughing at? I think it's like so funny when little kids fight, but like at the same time, like you know that like in their 12-year-old mind, like it's so serious. Like, I don't know. Anyways, back to the story. She was like, obviously you. And I don't really know what happened after that, but I just like snapped. I got up and I pushed her, and then Savannah, you know, wants to be Captain Save-A-Ho and come over and push me. Like, that's not how that works. Well, one thing kind of led to another, and before I knew it, one of them had a fistful of my hair, and the other one I was on top of, repeatedly punching. So then of course, you know, we're screaming, yelling, and a teacher comes in, rips me off of the one bitch, while the other girl still has literally a fistful of my hair. Like, she would just not let go. So, you know, finally, she gets the bitch off of me, and we get taken out to the office, of course. They call our parents, and my dad has known about these girls for a while, like this whole group of kids that like kept bullying me, and he always told me to just beat them up. So I really didn't think he was gonna be that mad at me until Savannah and Michelle's mom walked in. Yeah, I already like low-key knew that my dad was gonna take their side over mine, and you're probably wondering, well, how do you know? Because their mom was hot. I don't know what the fuck I did. Well, we're just gonna pretend like that's not there. But yeah, like I said, their mom was hot, and that's just how my dad was. So we're sitting in the office, and we had to wait a little bit because my dad had to take the bus to the school. Thank God it was like only like maybe a 5-minute bus ride, but still. So what do you know, I was right. My dad walks in, he sees their mom, and then he turns to me and he's like, I'm so disappointed in you. You know better than this. I taught you better than this. Like, sir, literally just last week, whenever one of them threw a pencil at my head, you were telling me to pick it up and just, I'm not even gonna say it, but y'all can guess what he said. I hate when parents do that. It's like, stop being fake. Be fucking for real. Anyway, so then, of course, he turns and he's like, I'm so sorry that she did that to your daughters. Completely ignoring the part where the teacher said that Savannah had a fistful of my hair. And we're gonna call their mom Paula. So Paula starts running her mouth. She's like, you need to start disciplining your daughter better. This is unacceptable. Blah, 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 blah. Her voice was so fucking annoying too. And then I thought my dad was low-key gonna go off because anytime that anybody tries to tell him how to parent, he does not like it at all. Even though half the time they're usually right. But instead, he's like, I totally agree. It's just hard, you know, trying to juggle being a single dad while working all day, every day to provide for my daughter. Her mom just left right after she was born, like literally just walked out the hospital.
Why the fuck you lying?
Which, as you guys know, is complete bullshit. You know what though? I wasn't surprised that my dad did use this. This was his tactic to get bitches. Like, he had a sob story to get bitches. He was that guy, which is so fucking embarrassing, but it worked. And by the way, my dad did not work all day every day. He literally sold crack. I'm not even joking. Literally sold crack. So of course, instead of this bitch having a little bit of common sense, she was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I couldn't imagine. You sound like such a great father. And then she was like, so I'm guessing like she doesn't have a mother figure in her life? Says, what the fuck did he just say? Clearly not. So then my dad just continues. He's like, no, it's just been me raising her on my own for the past 12 years. And by raising, he means letting me survive on my own. Literally. So then she was like, well, if you ever need my help, don't hesitate to call. Here's my number. Blah, blah, blah. So all three of us ended up getting suspended for a week. And while we're walking out of school, Michelle, Savannah, and Paula all walked to their car. My dad and I, we start walking to the bus station. And while we're walking, I asked him, I was like, so why did you tell me to beat those girls up if you were just gonna yell at me? Like, I had no problem calling my dad on his shit because someone had to, and it was gonna be me. And he made up some bullshit excuse about her being rich, and if she decided to press charges, blah, 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 blah. Probably I would get expelled and then have to go to another school. Well, while we're sitting at the bus station, they drive past us. And then 5 minutes later, they pull back around and Paula rolls down the window and she's like, do you guys need a ride home? I don't want to leave you guys sitting here. Of course, my dad says yes. Not even acknowledging the fact that the two girls that I literally just got in a fight with were in the same fucking car. Actually, I think he did acknowledge it. He just didn't give a shit. Father of the Year award. Just fucking kidding. So, you know, I get into the back seat with the two girls that I literally just got into a physical fight with less than an hour ago. And I had to sit in the middle. Not even 5 minutes into the drive, like Savannah just like literally couldn't not be a dick. She goes, Mom, can you turn the windows down? She smells like shit. I was about to punch her again. Literally. I mean, like, I probably did. But like at the same time, we're all crammed into this small ass car and I don't even want to fucking be there. But the whole way to my house, my dad and Paula are talking and laughing and la 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 la. So we pull up to my house, aka the trap house, and then you could like hear the disgust in her voice. She was like, oh, this is where y'all live? And like literally made that face. Yeah. And here my dad goes, adding another chapter into his sob story. Let me just get into character. Yeah, this is all I can afford right now. You know, it's not the best, but with paying for a nanny and groceries and everything else, we're just so thankful to have a roof over our heads and a place to call home.
Why you always lying?
So I never had a nanny, and I've been taking care of myself since I was like 5. Like literally he would leave me at home and go to the club when I was 5. So we get into the house and I look at my dad and I'm like, why did you lie to that lady? And why were you being nice to her after her daughters just beat me up? And then he started yelling at me. He was like, first of all, you're the child, I'm the adult.
Girl, shut the fuck up. I ain't gotta explain shit to you.
He's like, everything that I do is for you. I'm trying to get us to have a better life one day, and that means being nice to shitty people. Like, okay, dad. So for me, that's what it is. I know you're fucking lying. God. Well, fast forward, all that shit happened on Monday, and now it's Saturday. But the whole last week, my dad's been taking Paula out on dates, like to the fair, to the movies, to the zoo. He never took me to the fucking zoo. What the fuck? And you would have thought at this point she would have like realized that he didn't have a fucking job, that he worked all day, every day. But I guess she was like dumb, or something else was like mentally wrong with her. But I guess that kind of runs in the family, considering her kids are also mentally disturbed. No, they're not diagnosed. It's just an observation that I made, and a pretty good one if I do say so myself. Anyway, so not only was he supposed to have a job that he worked 24/7, we're also supposed to be poor. Yeah, you're supposed to not have any money for anything since you pay for my nanny and groceries. What the fuck? It's like he's just pulling money out of his ass. But yeah, we're supposed to be poor, or at least so I thought, because you know he can barely afford for me to eat 3 meals a day. So he wasn't really doing that good of a job keeping that part of the sob story up with taking her on all these extravagant dates. He was literally so desperate for this woman to like him, he made one of his friends that lived with us pretend to be my nanny, and he literally like, I remember that he literally just went like, dude, Paula's coming over to the house today, like can you please just like put a good word in for me while I like go into the other room for a minute. He's like, yeah bro, I got you. So I'm sitting there in the living room watching this. Paula's standing there. First of all, she looks disgusted. She's like holding her purse like someone's gonna fucking snatch it out of her hands in the damn living room, and she's like looking around. And then my dad's friend's like, I'm so happy that you've come into his life, you know, he works so hard to be such a good dad, you know, he literally overworks himself to provide for this kid.
Oh my god, stop fucking lying.
And he points at me and I'm just like, really? And that is not even the best part. Do you want to know what the best part is? While he is spending all of his money on this woman, I am at home starving. I mean, like, I guess it was like a little bit okay because he would bring me their leftovers. Actually, no, that doesn't even fucking sound right, does it? No, it doesn't. Anyway, so back to Saturday. So usually her and my dad would go out obviously later on in the day, but for some reason she shows up at my house at like the ass crack of fucking dawn, and my dad wakes me up like, hey, Paula really wants to take you out today. And I didn't trust this woman. I did not, considering she literally didn't even discipline her daughters after they like jumped me in the fucking bathroom. Like I literally thought that she was going to like unalive me as soon as we got into the fucking car. Literally. So anyways, we are in the car together, and then she starts talking about how she knows that I've had a rough childhood and how her and my dad came to a group decision that it would be best if I spent some time with her to give me some sort of mother figure. And when she said that, I already saw the future. Like I already knew what was gonna fucking happen after this shit. Of course. So for the next 2 months, her and my dad were seeing each other almost every single day, and she would take me out on the weekends. Honestly, I was very confused at where her children were at because like she was never with them. And then fast forward a little bit, eventually it became Paula, my dad, and I all going out as like a family, which was kind of nice, you know? I actually started to really like her, and I also appreciated the effort that she was putting in to have a relationship with me as well as my dad, because honestly she really didn't have to do that, you know? Like my dad wouldn't have given a shit either way. But not only that, she made my dad really happy. Thankfully, anytime we went out, I did not have to see her daughters because they spent the weekends with their dad, thank God, until I came home from school Monday. And my dad was like, okay, we're gonna go and stay the night at Paula's house. And we've been staying at her house the past few weekends when her girls weren't there, but I was very confused because like I said, we stay there on the weekends, not during the week. But I packed a bag full of my stuff. And that's another thing, on the weekends whenever Paula and I would go out, she started buying me like school clothes. She'd take me to go get my hair cut, dentist, doctor's appointments that she would pay out of pocket because I did not have health insurance, which I'm pretty sure is illegal to not get your kid health insurance. I don't know. Anyways, I packed my overnight bag and I went and slept over, and her girls were there, so it was low-key kind of awkward. I haven't been having any problems with them in school since the week that we got suspended, but I'm pretty sure that's only because of Paula. So we all watched a movie, fell asleep, and then she took us to school the next morning. It was just really weird and awkward. Well, then the next day whenever I came home from school, all of my dad's and I's stuff was gone. Like I'm not gonna lie, I thought we got robbed. So you know, I'm running around trying to find my dad to tell him, of course. You guys see how I fucked up the blue star? I should have just left it alone. Anyway, so I couldn't find him, so I laid on the floor and took a nap while everybody else in the house was doing or selling drugs. Fast forward, my dad comes home and he's like, come on, let's go. We're gonna go to Paula's house. And I'm still so confused as to what is going on. So I keep asking him where the fuck our shit is. And he's like, it's a surprise, it's a surprise. Well, we get to Paula's house, and when I had came over in the past, Paula had shown me Michelle and Savannah's room, and it was fucking huge, okay? Like they had a whole attic to themselves. Well, then my dad walks me up to the attic, and there was a third bed up there, and all of my shit was up there. Now I know you guys are probably thinking, oh, like that's so nice. No, actually I was crying because now I'm terrified that I'm gonna get jumped in my sleep by one of these little gremlins. Well, by both of them. Anyway, so I'm crying. My dad, he's trying to calm me down, you know. We go to the kitchen, and my dad and Paula sit us all down, and they're like, okay guys, so we're all going to be a family now, so you girls need to figure out how to get along with each other because there will be no fighting in this house. And everybody looks at me like I'm the fucking problem. Like Savannah and Michelle are looking at me, and I'm like, she's talking to you too. And then my dad goes, hey, don't start with the fighting. Don't start. Like, I don't know why they ever thought that this was gonna be a good idea. But Paula had an idea for us to all go on a family vacation so that way we could all bond with each other. Ew. And I'm not gonna lie, at first it actually did work. Like, it really did work at first. We all started getting along, and I'm not gonna lie, we were kind of like a toxic trio because the whole time on this family vacation, we were literally just causing trouble. Like, playing pranks on my dad and Paula. But us getting along ended as quick as it started because like 3 nights into our vacation, we all started drawing on the walls with Sharpies at 3 in the morning while our parents were sleeping. I don't know why we thought that was a good idea, but we did. And we went to sleep like at 3:30, I would say. And then I would say not even an hour later, Paula starts fucking screaming. And my dad and her swing open the door to our room and they start yelling at us. They're like, which one of you thought that it was a good idea to draw on the wall with Sharpie? Blah, blah, blah. And you guys probably already know what happened. Like, instead of us not telling on each other, Michelle and Savannah pointed at me, of course. And my 12-year-old self is like, what the actual fuck? So of course, I took the blame for that, 2 against 1. So instead of that just being it, my dad and Paula are having a talk in front of us, and Paula's like, you need to get your daughter in check. She's acting out because she's used to being an only child, and she needs to get used to having siblings. This is ridiculous. Which wasn't the case at all. I enjoyed having sisters for those first few days. Now, I hate them. And I know hate's a strong word, but a lot. So for the rest of the vacation, I did not speak to them at all, which was kind of sad and annoying because, like, they had each other, so they were having a great time. But me, on the other hand, I didn't have anybody, so I was bored out of my fucking mind. Like, I pretty much just kept to myself the rest of the vacation. But throughout the next 4 years, I was kind of like the black sheep. My dad favorited her kids, of course. Should have saw that coming. Like, for example, on their birthdays, they would go do something really extravagant, and like we would go to Disney or some extra shit along those lines. And then for me, I would get a cake and a present and they would call it a day. I'm almost positive that it was because since I didn't have anything growing up, they thought that I should be appreciative over like the smallest thing, which don't get me wrong, I was very appreciative, but it was just the difference between how I got treated versus how they did, you know? But besides the birthdays, they would go out without me. Like, sometimes they would pick Savannah and Michelle up out of school to go do something or just because, but their excuse for not getting me out of school was because I had bad grades, when literally my grades were better than Savannah and Michelle's. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Or even say that I was taking a nap, right? They would go out to eat without me. Like, they wouldn't wake me up.
Emotional, damn it.
And eventually I was cleaning up after everybody. Like, Michelle and Savannah, sure, they had chores, okay? They did. But theirs were easy. Theirs was literally, do the dishes, sweep the floor. Mine, on the other hand, was mow the lawn, wash the cars. Like, I'm sorry, but I would rather went and moved back into the trap house, for real. And I feel like the worst part was, is like Savannah and Michelle had the audacity to complain about their chores. Anyway, so whenever we all turned 16, Michelle and Savannah got brand new cars. Myself, on the other hand, I didn't, because of, quote, my behavior. My behavior. You guys see how long my lashes are? I didn't even curl them, period. Ever since we all went on that first family vacation 4 fucking years ago, 4 years ago, I have been considered the bad child. Like, they took that and ran with it. Anyway, so I had to be their chauffeur, literally, because Paula said that it would be great practice for me. Driving them around everywhere they wanted to go would be great practice. Sure. And then when I turned 16, they stopped paying for all of my shit, which, okay, fine. Stop paying for my stuff. I'm okay with that. But the fact that they were literally still paying for all of Michelle and Savannah's shit was ridiculous. They told me that now that I'm 16 and I have a job, I need to learn to become more independent, even though, like I said earlier, I've been taking care of myself since I was like 5. Anyway, so yeah, they told me that I need to become way more independent, and yeah. My relationship with Savannah and Michelle never recovered after that vacation that we took. Not because of me, but ever since I started getting treated different by my dad and Paula, they just decided to treat me the same exact way because they knew that they would be able to get away with it. Well, one day my dad and I go to the store, and plot fucking twist, guess who we see there? My mother. Yes, 16 years later, we see my mom. Technically, I didn't see her, but my dad did. And it was literally just like the fucking movies. He saw her. We were getting stuff to make burgers, and we were in the condiment aisle, which is totally irrelevant, but he had a jar of pickles in his hand, and when he saw her, he dropped the jar of pickles. The glass broke all over the fucking floor. Everybody was looking except for her. She just walked away. I don't even think that she saw him, to be honest. I really just think that she didn't give a fuck. And instead of my dad telling somebody that he just dropped a full jar of pickles and there was glass all over the floor and pickle juice all over the floor that somebody could slip on, he grabbed my arm and yanked me, and he's like, come on, hurry up, let's go, let's go. And I'm like, Dad, why are you so fucking scared? It's literally a jar of pickles that were like $3. But eventually we are running around the grocery store like chickens with our heads cut off, following my mom around, and then finally we go out to the car and he's like, hurry up, duck down. And I'm like, Dad, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, I don't want her to see us. And I'm like, who? And he's like, your mother. And I'm low-key confused. I'm like, why do you care, first of all? And he was like, well, because I don't want it to be awkward. And I was like, okay, then let's just leave. And as she gets in her car and drives away, my dad, he decides that we're gonna follow her. Little creepy, I know. Trust me, I fucking know. And she pulls up to this house, and my dad's like, wow, she still lives with her mom. And the whole time we're following her, he's literally crying, telling me how much he's missed her and how he's still deeply in love with her. And the whole time I'm sitting there and I'm like thinking, what about Paula? But then I also think, Actually, I give a fuck about that bitch. So, period. Because she has no problem making my life a living hell. Then again, I didn't really give a fuck about my dad either because he low-key just let it happen. So, yeah. So later on that night, I'm cleaning up the dinner table and Paula walks up to me and she's like, hey, is everything okay with your dad? He's been being a little bit weird. And I was like, I don't know. It probably has to do with the fact that we saw my mom today. And she was like frozen. She was like, oh, did you guys speak to her? And I was like, no, we just passed by her in the grocery store. Like, I was just being super nonchalant about it and acting like it really wasn't that big of a deal. And like my dad literally wasn't crying and professing his love for her to me in the car. Well, at about 2 in the morning, all Michelle, Savannah, and I could hear was Paula and my dad arguing. She was saying something along the lines of, you saw her once for 5 minutes and all of a sudden you're acting super weird. It's really suspicious to me, and it's suspicious how you didn't tell me that you saw her. And my dad was like, I didn't even think it was that big of a deal. But yeah, I was a little bit shook that I just saw the mother of my child who left us as soon as she was born. And I'm not gonna lie, after we saw her, my dad was acting really sus. And by sus, I mean he was working more than usual, you know, working. And I don't know if I said this earlier or not, but Paula got him a job working at this company that actually paid really, really good money. But that's besides the point. So fast forward, a week after we had saw my mom, Paula asked me if I knew if my dad and my mom were speaking. And I don't know if they were or not, but if I did know that they were, I would have told her. Not out of loyalty or anything, because that train left the building a long ass time ago, but because I wanted to start issues between her and my dad. Yep. That's what I wanted to do. And I know that sounds petty as fuck, but oh well, I don't care. That's how I felt. Well, this started causing a lot of problems between my dad and Paula. And there were even more problems whenever he started taking me everywhere with him. Do you remember how I said before that, you know, usually it was all them going out and they would just fucking leave me at home, or just not even, yeah, they would just leave me at home? Well, my dad had been stalking her to figure out her daily routine. And I'm pretty sure the only reason why he was taking me with him was because he was hoping that she would see how good of a dad he's been. And you know, the one day I asked him, I'm like, so quick question. If you really love Paula, why are you doing all this? Like, why are you still with her if you still want to be with my mom? And he was like, I don't love Paula the way that I love your mom. I just wanted a better life for us, which was a total fucking lie, because how did this seem like a better life for me? And I asked him that. I was like, quick thing, dad. Like, you realize that I've been being treated like the black sheep for the past 4 years, right? And he was like, I know, I'm sorry. Like, I'm really, really, really sorry that you had to grow up that way. But after your mom leaving us, things were really, really hard. Like, he's really out here trying to feed me the same fucking bullshit ass sob story that he feeds these bitches. And then he has the audacity to say, at least your life's a little bit better than when you were 12. Are you kidding me? What the fuck? Why is that relevant? It's not. Anyway, so a week and a half after my dad found out that my mom was in town, I go home and I go upstairs, and just recently Michelle, Savannah, and I all had separate rooms. Anyway, so I go up to my room and there are bleach stains all over fucking everything. Everything in my room. Like, there wasn't one thing that wasn't covered in fucking bleach. And the worst part is this was everything that I paid for with my own money, because remember when they said that I needed to start supporting myself because I'm 16 years old? Yeah, well, I start fucking screaming at the top of my lungs and I'm flipping the fuck out on whoever the fuck I see first. Well, Paula and my dad weren't home at this point. So I'm not even joking. I wish I was, because this is a little bit psychotic. I grab a kitchen knife and I threaten Michelle and Savannah. I'm like, you better tell me who the fuck threw bleach all over my shit, and one of you better pay for it, or else I'm going to fucking stab you.
Run, bitch! Run!
Obviously, I wasn't being serious, but I was very close to grabbing the vase off the counter next to me and throwing it at one of their heads. Well, Savannah's crybaby ass starts crying and screaming, and Paula just happens to get home at the right time because she sees me with the knife in my hand in front of her 2 daughters, and she starts freaking out. She runs over to me, grabs the knife, pins me on the ground, calls the police, and then I kid you not, she sent me to a mental hospital. Yeah, she sent me to a fucking mental hospital.
Don't be shocked. You're shocked? You're shocked?
Where I had to spend the night. So my dad picks me up in the morning, and I told him what happened. I was like, Dad, I went home and all of my shit was fucking ruined. He was like, I don't care. That is no reason for you to threaten your sisters with a fucking knife. That's when I'm like, whoa, hold the fuck up. These are not my sisters. They're not. Those are spawns of Satan. Don't be putting that negative energy out into the air. Last thing that I fucking need. Literally. Well, my stepmom decided to use this situation to her advantage by saying that this all happened because my dad wasn't spending enough time at home, and that's why I'm acting out. And I know you're probably wondering, well, how is this an advantage for her? Think about it. My dad's literally spending so much time at work when really he's following my mother around like a fucking creep. But yeah, he's barely coming home, and so she also kind of has a feeling that he's been seeing my mom, so in him staying home, he won't be able to focus on my mom. Well, later that night, I decide to order a camera from Amazon because I'm gonna catch one of these little rats ruining my shit. Even though I was low-key hoping that it was just a one-time thing, I had a feeling that it wasn't. And I'm not about to be reprimanded for my reaction to what these bitches do to me, if that makes sense. So a few days go by and things are good because my dad is staying at home, but that literally only lasted 3 days. Like, that man dipped after 3 days of being home. Oh, and that's whenever the bullshit started happening again. So I come home from school and I go up to my room, and what's laying on the floor? My computer. Yeah, which was missing all of the buttons off the keyboard, and the screen was shattered. Like, literally my computer was fucking destroyed, and it wasn't like it was a cheap computer. No, this was one that I bought myself with my own money. There were parts of the screen laying all around my dresser. So before I threatened someone with a knife again, I remembered that I have a camera. And plot twist, it wasn't Michelle or Savannah, it was Paula grabbing my laptop off of my desk and smashing it over the corner of my dresser, and then proceeding to rip all the keys off. So now I had proof that I wasn't fucking psychotic and I wasn't doing this shit myself for attention, as she said. And I was like thinking about how I should execute this, you know, like how I should confront her. I was thinking, should I come to her as a woman? No, I shouldn't. But instead of running and showing my dad right away, I decided that on our family movie night. I would connect my phone to the TV and yeah, just go from there. So this pretty much all happened on a Friday. So I had to wait 2 days. It was literally like eating me alive that I just couldn't show my dad right then and there because I wanted to expose her ass in front of everybody. So Sunday rolls around and that's exactly what I fucking did. I literally stood up while everybody else is sitting on the couch and I'm like, so you all think that I'm a crazy bitch, but in reality it's this bitch right here, and I point to Paula and my dad's like, why are you speaking to her like that? And Paula looks like she's ready to punch me in the face until the video starts playing on the TV. Yeah, the fuck. So while this video is playing on the TV, my dad just like slowly turns and looks at her and like cocks his head and he's like, bruh, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like really? Like you're a grown ass adult bitch. You're like 45. What the fuck? And surprisingly, Michelle and Savannah actually go off on their mom as well. Savannah goes, so I almost got stabbed because you wanted to mess with her shit? Mom, what the fuck is wrong with you? So Michelle and Savannah go to their rooms and then Paula's just looking at me like she wants to set me on fire. Literally. I don't blame her. I was happy she was looking at me like that. So my dad tells me to go upstairs while him and Paula talk, but instead I go upstairs and Savannah, Michelle, and I all are sitting at the stairs listening to them argue. And my dad's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why would you do that? How can you sit here and call yourself a mother? And then she's crying and sobbing and saying that she's sorry. She didn't mean it. Da, 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 da.
We do not care.
She's like, please, I won't do it again. I'm so sorry. And her excuse for doing all this shit was that she was jealous. That him and I had been spending a lot of time together and how he was acting weird since he saw my mom. Because I guess that my dad had been stalking my mom's social media and he found out that she's been living in California for like the past 16 years. So my dad used this to his advantage and he was like, I don't know, I think that I'm gonna take my daughter and we're gonna go stay somewhere for a few days because I need time to think. This has just been a lot. And she was like, think about what? I said I was sorry. I said that it was a mistake. Da, 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 da. And he's like, no, that wasn't a mistake. He was like, you purposely went into my daughter's room and broke her shit because you had a temper tantrum and you couldn't control it. Like that was all because of your own insecurities. I was like, period. Finally my dad wants to stick up for me when it will benefit him, of course. So my dad packed up some of his stuff and we're leaving the house and Paula goes, well, where's your bag? And I'm like, well, somebody ruined all my shit. Like, can she fuck off? She literally ruined all my shit with bleach. You know why I don't have a bag. Don't play dumb. So my dad and I go to my grandma's house and this was perfect because this gave him a reason to start talking to my mom again, or like a way where he wouldn't feel bad if he started talking to her again, if that makes sense. Well, my dad found out that my mom would walk her dog every morning at 8 in the morning. So he literally bought a dog. He bought a dog. And at 8 in the morning the next day, we went to her neighborhood and she sees us and she walks up to my dad. She hugs him and she's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. How are you? And then she looks at me and it looks like she starts tearing up and she's like, is this her? And he's like, yeah, this is her. And she gives me a huge hug and I'm really fucking confused. I'm like, this is a little bit weird. Not gonna lie. A little bit weird, just a little bit. Okay, very weird. Because like, sure, she was my mom, but also, yeah, she just didn't want me. So I guess she had a change of heart or something whenever she saw me. So fast forward, while I was staying at my grandma's, my dad and my mom were staying in a hotel and they had stayed there for like 2 days. And then Paula rolls up to my grandma's house, okay? And she was like, so how come you're here and your dad isn't? And like I said, I don't owe no loyalty to anybody. So I straight up told her he's staying with my mom. Oh my God, her face whenever I told her that. I just knew that she was gonna do some crazy ass shit because yeah, it was not good. So she was like, you better get in the car right now. And I'm like, no, I'm not getting in the fucking car, Paula. And she pulls out a fucking gun, literally. And then she told me to get in the car. So obviously I'm like, all right, okay, all right. I'm gonna get in the car now. I'm gonna get in the car. Remember when I told you guys that I didn't want to get in the car with her because I was afraid that I was like gonna die when I was like 12, the first time that like I had ever hung out with her? Yeah, I feel like I predicted this shit. I really did. Anyway, so we're in the car. She's going like 30 miles over the fucking speed limit. Thankfully, I recognized that we were going home instead of some fucking place where she could murder me and dump my body. And she keeps calling my dad. Thank God on the 4th time he answered. And she's like, so what, you're seeing that bitch now? Da da da. Like, how could you do this to me? And I'm in the car crying and freaking out because I'm afraid that I'm gonna be unalived. And he was like, do you have my daughter in the car with you? And she's like, yeah, I have her in the car with me and you better meet me at the house in 5 minutes or else I'm gonna unalive both of you. So funny, but not really funny story. Whenever I was younger, my sister and I, we were in the back of my mom's car. And I want to say that maybe like I was like 6 and my sister was 3. My mom was on the phone with my dad. They were arguing. And she was like, something, something, something. I'm gonna drive me and the girls off this fucking bridge. And my sister and I just looked at each other. Like, we're in the back. No, she must have been like 4 and I must have been 7 because she understood exactly what the hell my mom said. Like, we both just looked at each other and we're like, yeah, like that was pretty traumatic. Anyways, back to the story. So my dad meets her at the house and her and I both get out the car. I run into the house and I'm watching from the window and things were going even worse than they were before, which I didn't even think was fucking possible because my dad brought my mom. What is wrong with you? So Paula just like bolts over to my mom when my dad runs over to her and he's like, come on, let's go take a drive. Let's talk about this, blah, blah, blah. So her and my dad get into the car and I don't even know why he thought it was a good idea to let her drive. But yeah, she was driving really reckless, I guess. I mean, not really, I guess. I know because she crashed into a telephone pole and unalived herself and put my dad into a coma. Yep, I've been living with my mother ever since. And I didn't think that she would be that sad about my dad because like they didn't even really have that much of a history unless one of them was lying to me. But she would go and visit my dad in the hospital almost every day. And I feel bad for Savannah and Michelle, but to be honest, they really didn't even care. Like they were happy to go live with their dad.